Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Akakwadash. And I want to say Shalom to Yakim out there pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this one's going to be titled something along the lines of Esau's pride is so strong that they can't see their stupidity. Okay, Esau's pride is so strong that they can't see their stupidity. And I got a couple of articles here, and it's, you know, it's we're truly living in, you know, the most stupid of times. Okay, and Esau, well, you know, Esau is really who it is, but you know, Trump's America has really just, you know, revealed through Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai how dumb these people are, and call all Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai for that. Okay, now a scripture that really comes to mind is this one right here. Excuse me. This is yeah. So this is the one. All right, I was mixing two up and then I worded it wrong. But Jeremiah 49:15, it says, "For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men." So let's go ahead and what else do I want to get? Yeah, well, we got to go on to verse 16. So 15 again. "For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men. Thy terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, thou that holdest the height of the hill. Though thou shouldst make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord." Okay, and one more in 17, it says, "Also Edom shall be a desolation. Every one that goeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof." There you go. Even one more in 18, "As in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it." But the Lord loves Edomites too, right? So anyway, going up to 15 again, I want to get this in 15 and 16. It says, "For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men." So even amongst the other heathens, okay, Esau's, you know, the lowest. They are the lowest on the bottom, and they put themselves in a position. Well, they haven't put themselves in a position. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai has allowed them, all right, to be in that position, all right, because essentially they're the stick, all right, they're the switch, all right, they're the paddle, they're the belt, all right, and that's, you know, that was their purpose, okay, because Jake went off. Now, had Jake not gone off, that wouldn't have happened, but that's not the way it went, all right, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and they've, with that, all right, through the Renaissance age, and because that's what Renaissance means, it really means the rebirth. It was the rebirth age, all right, and that's when they were able to gain power and you know, build their infrastructure over Jacob, all right, and in turn also, you know, start using Jacob for labor. They've been using Jacob, you know, as long as they could. It wasn't just the transatlantic slave trade, all right. Before, they just had different names for it. They weren't necessarily slaves. They might have been indebted servants, they might have been serfs, they might have been villeins, all right. Come on now. There we go. Villain, a type of feudal serf in medieval Europe, personally bound to their lord and the land, who held a unique status between free tenants and unfree slaves. So, you know, and this is, of course, you know, they had white people that were doing that as well, but there was different levels. Some people were just slaves, some people were serfs, you know, villains, all right, which is, again, like it says, it's like a unique status that's between free and not free. Okay, you're essentially indebted. Okay, you're indebted. You're bound to the land. The lands cannot leave the manor, sell their oxen, or marry without the Lord's permission. Okay, so various different levels. Now, they gave them land, though. They had a house, right? So there you go. And someone would marry if the Lord allowed it, right? Their Lord over them, as they would be called, which was like the master. That's what they called him back then, was just the Lord. And that's really another term where the landlord came over, the Lord of the land. He would literally gather all this land and lord it over the poor. And, some people got it, some people didn't. Some people had to make trade-offs. Some people indebted themselves, all right, through servitude, all right, to these lords, all right, to get a chance at having some property. Other people, were able to buy it at some point, and there's other people that wouldn't even get that. So, yeah, man, that's Esau's modus operandi. All right, one of them at least. He has many, but one of his modus operandis is having property and lording it over people. And you can't get any, ha 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 ha. Well, if you bound yourself to me and you put yourself in debt to me, that's just serfdom. All right, and being a villain is the modern version of that is just a mortgage. Okay, here it is. Owing $750,000 or whatever, or in a house. It's not always that expensive. Some places are. In Vegas, it runs about $400,000, $450,000. It's getting higher, maybe about $500,000 for a decent house. And you're indebted for the rest of your life into some company, some what's the word? Some company. I forgot the name. It's drawing a blank, but some property management team somewhere, all right, whatever they're calling themselves by, and you're indebted to them forever because you owe them a whole bunch of money. And usually people don't pay those houses off until they're in their 50s or 60s, if ever, if you live that long. So that's just the modern version. But through that, a little bit of rambly, but through that, they built themselves into seeming smart by just being wicked, right? They took everybody's money, okay, and lied, so now they look like they're very wealthy, okay? They took everybody's culture, so now they look very cultured, okay? They took the music, so they look like they're great creators. All the inventions that were done by Jake, they took those, so now they look like they're great inventors, okay? All the medical advancements that were really done by other people, okay, that were not them, whether they be Asian or Indian or whoever, those are the big ones working in the medical field, and especially medical scientists as Asians and Indians. Then they take credit for that and say, oh, well, this company, blah, 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 has come out with this. Well, they're not the ones who really came out with that. They're just the ones who patented it. They make, 50 billion off of that. And then they give the Asian or Indian person that made it, maybe $1 million at most, and, call it a day. And, so it's just, they've built themselves into seeming smarter and more cultured and more creative and more powerful than they really are, because they're not at the end of the day. They're not that powerful, and they're not that strong. The Lord has allowed them to have that guise, all right? It's a guise. That's all it is. I spelt that wrong, but, a guise. How do you spell that? Here it is. Guise. What is a guise? It says an external form, appearance, or manner of presentation, typically concealing the true nature of something. So it's, it's concealing who they really are. And the biggest thing that they hid is who they are, all right, as the Edomites. Okay, that's the biggest thing they hid. But hey, call all Yahweh Meow Shai. We're in a time in society now where it's all being revealed. We know that wicked shall be revealed. We're getting there, all right? We're in the times of it. It's not fully there, but this is, we'll go from verse 7. It says, 2 Thessalonians 2:7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Excuse me. It says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Who even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. All right. In verse 10 it says, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. So yeah, man. Also, we should get 11. It says, and for this cause Yahweh shall send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. There you go. We got to go to 12 as well. It says that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. And who do you think does that the most? Esau. They can't believe at all. Yeah, there's Jake that does that as well, and they're gonna get that strong delusion, and they're gonna be damned because they didn't believe in the truth. But Esau is inherently that because they don't trust in the Lord. They trust in their riches. They trust in themselves. Okay. But yeah, so let me go back up to that wicked shall be revealed. All right. And then shall that wicked be revealed. So it's happening in bits. All right. These people are really being revealed for how dumb they are. All right. Right now, it's not fully to the extent because people are just saying, oh, it's the Republicans. It's the Republicans. But really, if you look at it, it's the Democrats too, man. Both of you are just dumb as shit. All right. You're two sides of the same sucker. All right. And it's a dumbass sucker to begin with, man. And you're dumb and you both stay bickering. They keep you bickering so you don't see the outside. And a lot of you both argue about the small hats because it's the 1948 in control. No, it's not. Both of you will get fucking up in arms about it. All right. It used to be that the conservatives used to be, oh yeah, Israel needs to stay out of our business. They're the synagogue of Satan. They're coming around. They used to say things like that until Trump was sided with them, and now they love Israel when they used to not. It shows you how malleable the average American's mind is, and they're dumb regardless if you're left or right, blue or red, Democrat, Republican, donkey or elephant. You're dumb as shit. You're dumb. You're not seeing it. All right. The people that are truly awake to the fact really are going to be in this truth as Hebrew Israelites. And on top of that, they're not going to be aligning themselves with any political side. Okay, some people like to say we lean a little bit more right, but that's just because the nature of, the right doesn't like abortion, and that's true. They don't like homosexuals, and that's true. But that's about it. Everything else, doesn't really align. We don't care about the infrastructure or any of that shit. We don't care about that. All right, there's just two things that we agree with. All right, so that just because you agree with two things doesn't make you the exact same. Okay. There might be somebody out there that, is wacky and likes to ride a unicycle, pantsless and wear a Dr. Seuss hat with a green beard and, smoking on a big pink pipe, all right, with a cat on his shoulders, all right, while waving a Mexican flag, all right, and a Nazi flag. And he says, I like peanut butter and jellies. And I say, yeah, I agree with that. And he says, I also like it when it's warm out. And I say, yeah, I agree with that. Does that make me the same as that guy? The fuck no, it doesn't. All right, but he made 2 points, and just because you agree don't mean you agree with everybody. Same thing with everybody. We don't all agree 100% with each other outside of this truth, right? Outside of this truth, we all agree on the same thing in this truth, but outside of this truth, one brother might like grape jelly, another brother might like strawberry, another brother might like, what do they call those? Orange preserves, right? So, and one other brother might just like cookie butter, and no jelly at all. So, does that make us all that different? No, but all of us have our differences, right? But they'll try to lump anybody in because that's the thing. If you have some similarities, they got to lump you in. They got to label you because everybody likes to be labeled. Everybody's got to have a label. They got to be gay or not gay, straight or not straight, transgender or not straight. They have to be a rocker or a metalhead, right? Or they got to be a rap culture, a thug, or they got to be alt, or they got to be non-alternative or normal, or they got to be conservative. They got to be prude, okay? They got to be tattooed or non-tattooed. They always, I'm this and that, all these different identities, man. Everybody just has to put a label on themselves. All right, I'm into cottage core, Frutiger Arrow, Goblin core, cyberpunk style. I'm an alt, whimsy goth, bisexual. Buddy, what is all these labels that you're doing with yourself, man? Calm the fuck down. Calm the fuck down. All right. So, first article of the day, this is from CNN. It says, Rubio says the U.S. can achieve its goals without ground troops in Iran as energy crisis deepens. Talks between Tehran and the U.S. continue. Israel has vowed to escalate strikes on Iran in response to a new wave of attacks. And another thing about dealing with this whole energy crisis and energy grid and power grid and all these different things is that Iran. You want to talk about a vow, all right? Israel has vowed. You want to know what Iran has vowed? They said, we touched, you touched our hospitals and we didn't do anything. You touched our schools, we didn't do anything. If you touch our power, we will touch your power. And the U.S.'s pride, that's what this lesson's all about, is their pride. It's going to get to them, and then soon the fucking power grid's going to be wiped out. All right, soon the power grid's going to be wiped out, and it's going to suck. All right, doesn't mean we're out right then and there. All right, it's probably going to happen like what happened to Cuba. We're going to have rolling blackouts, okay? And we're going to have some power sometimes, some power not sometimes. So, I mean, yeah, that's what it is, I mean, if you can afford it, I mean, we know that Yahweh Shemi Shai has got us at the end of the day, but if you can afford it, now would be the time to probably buy a little battery bank and a solar panel. All right, just enough to like keep whatever you want power, a phone or like a video game system or something like that, or a light. All right, another good thing would be to get like one of those little battery charger with rechargeable batteries. Like those lithium ion batteries that you can recharge, just regular like AA and AAA. And then get some rechargeable one of those, and then get one of the ones that plugs into an outlet, because you can plug that into a battery bank, all right, that's charged solar, and that way you can do flashlights and little lamps and those press buttons that you push. And sometimes people keep them on their nightstands. You can push them in there, little things like that. All right, little things like that. I mean, again, if you can't, don't worry about it, because Yahweh Shemi Shai is going to have you anyway. But if you can, that's something that would probably be beneficial to have. You just never know. Could charge batteries and other different things, right? If you don't have it, you don't have it. If you do, you do. Are you gonna be fine either way? But those with it probably gonna have a little bit more of a better time. All right. But if you can't do that, stockpiling batteries, all right, would probably be something that's decent. All right. Again, we're not fully on the prep board. It's not because at the end of the day, Yahweh Shemi Shai is going to take care of who he's taking care of. All right, but it'd be smart to have a couple things, some candles, a couple lighters, some canned goods, and some, maybe a battery bank of some sort. And again, at the end of the day, you don't have to have a lot. Just do what you do. I don't personally even have much of that at all. But at the end of the day, if you want to do that, you can do it. If you don't, you don't. But at the end of the day, Yahweh Shemi Shai is going to take care of who he takes care of, specifically with food and water. All right, my servant shall eat, but you shall be hungry. My servant shall drink, but you shall be thirsty. My servant shall rejoice, but you shall be ashamed. Roughly paraphrasing. So, yeah, man, we know that the Lord is going to take care of who he takes care of at the end of the day, regardless if you've stockpiled anything. But if you have it, if you have the money, the little extra money, it'd probably be best to, get you a little crisis kit, right? Some rice, some beans, some water. All right, water purification tablets. You can set all that up for like $200, right? It's fairly easy to do if you want to do it. But you don't need to have a stockpile. I have 42 guns. I have 82 racks of Cant. No, you don't need to do all that. All right, and you have to be surviving out the end. You're just gonna be, once that happens, it's gonna be pretty quick, man. Pretty quick. Bear with me just 1 minute. So yeah, man. Let's read a little bit of this more. So, war death toll, they say Iran is 1,900. Lebanon is 1,116. Arab countries is 30. 22 in Israel and 13 in the U.S. military. And they're lying about the Israel and U.S. I bet those numbers are, quite a bit higher. They just always got to make it look like they are winning. That's part of their lie, all right? We just talked about it the other day. Ecclesiastes 12:10 says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. All right, he's a liar. All right, so you can't trust this devil. He says only 13 has died. Sure, right with the illuministic number. All right, with the illuministic number as well. So it says, here's the latest. It says, war is not finished yet. U.S. President Donald Trump said the war with Iran is not finished, and the U.S. has another 3,554 targets left to hit. Secretary, I just want to see, I wanted to count up any of those numbers and see what it went up to. It's 17, but it says targets left to hit. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. can achieve its objectives without any ground troops. Well, why did you send out a ground troop infantry division? if you don't need any ground troops. That doesn't make any sense. But okay, more lies that they lied about. We just read the other day that they sent out airborne. That's a ground-based infantry unit, all right, that jumps out of planes to go boots on ground. They're infantry. That's what infantry does. If they don't need any ground troops, why are they sending ground troops? They already sent 3,000. Now they're sending 3,000 more on top of that. That's 6,000. Why? For what? It says, and the war could end in weeks as hundreds more service members are deployed. It's not going to end in weeks. All right, this war is going to be long and it's going to be drawn out. If they try to say it's ended, it's not. They're going to try to mask it. Okay, it's going to try to mask it. Just like they said, oh, you know, the war with Russia and Ukraine, that's going to be done. Or just like he said, there will not be no war with Russia. I'll see that it's done away with. Or just like he said, no new wars. Right? Remember all that? It's all bullshit because the guy's a fucking lying faggot. All right, Israel targets Iran nuclear sites. Israel said it targeted 2 Iranian nuclear facilities, and Bush era, or however, nuclear power plant was hit for the 3rd time. Separately, U.S.-Israeli strikes in western Iran killed at least 20, according to a local official quoted in state media. Energy crisis. The effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz and other impacts from the war are rippling around the world, including in Africa and the Philippines, which became the first country to declare a state of emergency due to the energy crisis. So there's a lot of shit going on. Cuba's going pretty bad too. Yeah, man. So they're doing all these different things. They're saying all these different things. You know, we're gonna be done with the war soon. No, you're not. No, you're not. That again, that all goes back to your lies, man. And Proverbs 11:2, it says, when pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. And they're starting to, you know, there's shame starting to be revealed. Okay, for example, here's a couple of different things. This is from AP News. It says, Secret Service agent assigned to Jill Biden accidentally shoots himself in the leg at an airport. You know, look, man, that's shameful. Yeah, that's shame. You know, here it is. You're supposed to be masquerading as the strongest people, the badasses, the rulers of this world, you know, but you're just a fucking dumbass, man. You're all just dumbasses. You Edomites are just dummies, man. It says a U.S. Secret Service agent assigned to protect former First Lady Jill Biden accidentally shot himself in the leg at Philadelphia International Airport on Friday, authorities said. Biden was not in the area when the agent was injured during a negligent discharge of his firearm Friday morning. Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi told the Associated Press, according to initial reports, the agent was traveling in an unmarked car when he accidentally discharged his gun shortly before 9 a.m., said Philadelphia police officer Tanya Little. Other law enforcement officers came to assist the injured agent, who was taken to a local hospital. He is being treated for his injuries and was in stable condition. What does that mean? You know, that Guglielmi guy or whatever. Anyway, man, that's an embarrassment. All right, another big embarrassment. Shows you again, Proverbs 11:2, when pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. Let's hop over here in the English Standard and see what it says. It says, when pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with the humble is wisdom. And then let's get easy to read. It says, proud and boastful people will be shamed, but wisdom stays with those who are modest and humble. And this is shame, man. Look at this. Iran-linked hackers breach FBI director's personal email and publish photos and documents. You're the FBI director and you got hacked. You're supposed to be the FBI, man. The FBI is supposed to be the ones hacking into American citizens' phones and shit. At this point, I'm not even so concerned about, you know, being on lists or, you know, them hacking into our phones and all that shit, because at this point, I'm not even so sure they still have the infrastructure to do so, right? With this Kash Patel guy that's currently the FBI director, man, this guy is a fucking dummy. Okay, this guy is a dummy. You know, all these different things are showing, you know, and, you know, I'm not even so sure they have the ability to spy as if they want to, and they probably still have a little bit. And we're probably, you know, the Hebrew Israelites, we're definitely probably still on some list somewhere, but we'll even know if that's even being actively tracked at this point, because these guys are losing it. These guys are losing it. All right, as we get closer and closer to the end, Esau is fucking losing it, man. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. Okay, hopping back over here. We can really close out of this one because we already read it. It's just, you know, Rubio saying Iran war is going to last weeks, not months. Watch it. It's not going to last weeks. It's not going to last months. It's probably going to last over a month. All right. However long we have here, it's probably going to be over a year that this shit lasts. All right. With this war. All right, if we have, you know, a year or however long left, it ain't looking like we do. But if we do have time, watch how long this shit lasts, because it's just like the same thing. You know, America was gonna go and help Ukraine, and it was gonna be done with, and that didn't work. Didn't work. Who would have guessed? It didn't work. Why didn't it work? Because it's not that simple, man. It's not that simple. And then right here it says exclusive. U.S. can only confirm about a third of Iran's missile arsenal has been destroyed. Sources say. So, and that's that you know of. All right, they don't have to report. All right, legally, technically, I think they had to, but a lot of these countries don't even report what nukes they have or missiles that they have. So you think, oh, they said they have 3,452, when really they have, you know, 6,329, right? And you're, well, wait a minute, you know, you weren't supposed to have all the, well, and they wouldn't know anyway. Underground areas, they don't know. All right, Esau's losing it as we get closer to the end, and really, it's their pride is. You know, it's really causing a mental deficit, right? So again, you know, you got the Iran-linked hackers breaching the FBI. How are you breaching the FBI director, right? You would think that would be, you know, something insane, but no, in this society, no, not really. And that guy always looks like he's fucking shitting his pants or trying to hide a shit in his pants. All right, he always looks like he just found out that that God and his son are black men, and they're coming back to destroy the world, and he's just dropped a turd in his pants. That's what he always perpetually looks like. That's what he just found out. All right. See, right? He always looks like someone just said, "Hey, yeah. So the father's name is God. It's Yahweh. The son's name is Yahweh Shai. They're actually black men. There's no aliens. They're actually just black angels, and they're coming back, and they're gonna destroy America because America's Babylon, and yeah, they're gonna destroy everyone, and there's no chance. And we're Edomites. You seem to possibly be an Elamite, and yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. Don't tell anybody else. So don't tell anybody." That's what he always looks like. You know, he constantly looks like he just got a briefing. And his eyes are just like, you know, what has this man seen? You know, that's what he always looks like. Like he just heard the worst news he could possibly have heard, right? So, yeah, man. Anyway, Proverbs 11:2. Once again, for the thrice time, proud and boastful people will be shamed, but wisdom stays with those who are modest and humble. And that's in the easy to read version. And we already got it in the King James version, of course. Now, here's Jeremiah 17:5 and 8 in the Common English Bible. First, all right, we'll read it, and then we'll get the King James. It says, "The Lord proclaims, cursed are those who trust in mere humans." Our government is the strongest. You know, we're gonna go over there with guns and bombs and we can take them out. No, you're trusting in humans. You know, really, you should trust in the Lord. And you say, well, we do trust in the Lord. You know, God bless America. He doesn't bless this place. This place is cursed. All right, this is Babylon. All right, this is Babylon. Look what's going to happen to Babylon. Look what happened to Babylon in the old days. And look, what do you think is going to happen to the new one? Lord proclaims, cursed are those who trust in mere humans, who depend on human strength and turn their hearts from the Lord. They will be like a desert shrub that doesn't know when relief comes. They will live in the parched places of the wilderness, in a barren land where no one survives. Happy are those who trust in the Lord, who rely on the Lord. They will be like trees planted by the streams, whose roots reach down to the water. They won't fear drought when it comes. Their leaves will remain green. They won't be stressed at the time of drought or fail to bear fruit. So look, we're not fretting about this shit. We're not, oh my god, I need to pack a bunch of food. Oh my god, I need to do this. Oh my god, I need to do this. Oh my god, and look, man, it ain't that deep. All right, if we're of the elect, we're gonna be saved. If we're not, we're fucked. That's it. All right, that was a fine line, two sides. If you're the elect, who we hope we are, we're going to be fine. We're going to be great. Everything's going to be good. All right, we're going to go through some hell. All right, we're going to go through some rough times. I mean, it's just like a Band-Aid, all right? You got to rip it off. It's going to hurt a little bit, all right? But we'll be fine in the end, all right? And that's, you know, dealing with Jacob's trouble and shit we got to go through, potential beheadings, right? And that's fine. We got to go through that to get to the gold, all right? So, and that's fine. But if you're not, you're just going to be destroyed. You're not, any of the food that you store up, it's not going to be yours. Any of the guns you have, you're not going to be able to fight your way or shoot your way out of anything. You're not going to be able to help yourself out of anything. You're not going to be able to, trust that, Daddy Esau is going to be able to get, no, nothing. All right, you're either of the elect and you're fine, or you're not of the elect and you're fucked. All right, that's it. So we're not going to focus on, oh, we're fucked. We're going to say, oh, Lord willing, part of the elect, we're good. All right, we're doing the work of the Lord right now. Lord willing, we're part of the elect, and we are fine. And if not, then what? You're fucked. There's no point in time waiting around. Well, what if? Well, if you're not of the elect, you're fucked. Too bad. So sad. You're done. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing. No preparations. Sit in the hole, dig your hole, and sit in it and fucking weep. All right. That's all you can do. Or you can say, Lord, want to be part of the elect, and move on with life, and prepare, prophesy, make these lessons. All right. Pray, and that's that. Okay. That's that. But a lot of other people, they're not. They're not of the elect, and really they can feel it in their souls. They can feel it in their bodies. All right, whether they just be 2/3, all right, of Israel, or they just be not of the elect because they're not Israelites. Okay, and they can't even be of the 2/3. Okay, because even being a 2/3 would be better of a result than their current result of nothingness, right? I.e., going into slavery and not having anything to look forward to. So Jeremiah 17:5 in the King James Version, down to 8, says, Thus saith the Lord, Cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord. For he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land, and not inhabited. Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of the drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. Okay, and careful in this case means, anxious. Okay, you're not going to be anxious. Okay, like in there, another scripture says, careful for nothing. That means anxious for nothing. Okay. So moving over to Proverbs 16:8, we're just quick fire on these because we're pretty much got it. We're going to close out. A little 32-minute lesson. Let me check. How long did I want to go per se? Let me see something. Yeah, that should be fine. I'm seeing how long of a lesson I watched earlier. I want to make sure I get at least 2 hours of, lesson-related content. Watching lessons, putting a lesson together, making a lesson, and doing it, right? So, 30 minutes is, accurate. Yeah, a little under. I think it was like 20, but longer is better. I don't like going under, but longer is fine. So, Proverbs 16:18 reads, Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And they don't even see it, all right? They don't even see it. Like the title of this lesson, I can't remember what I necessarily said. What was it? It says, Esau's pride has stopped them from, has masked their stupidity, something along those lines. They don't, they're so prideful, they don't see how dumb they look right now. This guy Trump and his little lackeys that he has going with him, they look like fucking morons, man. They look like fucking morons. It's bad, and he didn't look like that, round one. Okay, his first term, he didn't look dumb. He looked like he was powerful, gonna do some shit, change some shit around. All right, and truly try to make America great again. Right, that was this whole campaign that he funded on. This one, it's just, it's like the babyfication of the United States and shitification. It was already shit. All right, it's like taking a shit on a shit. All right, it's already shit, but now you've made it even shittier. Like, damn, man, how can you make it worse? And it's perplexing everything he does, and this guy is a planned hitman for the United States. This guy, right? This guy's explicitly trying to fucking destroy this place bit by bit through infrastructure. All right, it's all the works of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and the elites think it's order ab chaos, right? They're gonna get order through this chaos that's occurring. And they're sorely mistaken, because really they think that they're controlling it, when at the end of the day, the one pulling the strings, the puppet master, is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, controlling every little word and whim and plan that they have. All right, and it's all ultimately going to the ultimate goal of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, but destruction of this place. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious. So these people don't even see it. They think, oh, we're gonna break it down to build it up, but at this point, you're just breaking it down. You'll never be able to build it up, and it's gonna be too late. Wait, we gotta build it up. Wait, nope, too late. Everything's fucked. And now Yahushua has come back with his chariots and his angels to absolutely fucking dead this place. Okay? And you can't stop it. All right? He's unstoppable. An unstoppable power. You wouldn't know. You think you're an unstoppable power, but you can be stopped. Yahushua, all right, through the power of his Father, cannot be stopped. Okay? Cannot be stopped. Unstoppable. Unstoppable. You can shoot at him, throw bombs and nukes at him, and do whatever you want, and it's just gonna bounce off. All right, like how you want to be like Superman, your little Edomite superhero, right? Superman, you see all those bullets, ping, 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 bouncing right off of him. That's how Yahushua is gonna be, and that's how the angels are gonna be, and those chariots as well. When you're shooting missiles and nukes and bombs and bullets and all these different things, that it's not gonna fucking work. It's not gonna work. Okay. So Obadiah 1 and 3 through 4. This is dealing with you, Esau. Here you go. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. That really gives away who you were. Okay, because dealing with the Edomites that were in Petra, or I believe Petra. Petra. You know, the Edomites dealing with Petra that was in where? All right. It should say where it is. Petra, Edomite capital. Well, yeah. It tries to hide that. So I don't know why they tried to hide that. You have to specifically type those two words in to get it. It says Petra is located within the rugged mountain range of Mount Seir, okay, in southern Jordan, the ancient land of Edom. Okay, Esau. And you can tell by their architecture who they are, because they had this back then. They had it during the Greek times. They had it during the Roman times. And they have it during modern times. They never changed their style of building. Looks like the White House. This looks like all the buildings in Rome, all the buildings in Greek. They all look like that. If you go and look up Greek architecture, boom. Go and look at Roman architecture. Boom. Okay. You go look at White House. Boom. Same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And they were dwelling in those mountainous regions, all right, that are at one point, you know, they went through several different mountain regions. One of the biggest ones that they ended up was the Caucasus region, the Caucasus Mountains. And that, they ultimately ended up getting their term Caucasian, but now they don't use Caucasian. Caucasian's an outdated term. You can look it up. Is Caucasian an outdated term now? Yes, Caucasian is considered outdated and scientifically inaccurate. Okay? And it says it inaccurately linked European ancestry to the Caucasus region. Sure. Anyway, nice little hide, bunch of bullshit, but nice try. It says the pride of thine heart, Obadiah 3 through 4. It says the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high. That's the other thing. You try to put yourself in the high valleys of the mountains. You do it with your buildings now, skyscrapers and all these different things. If you ever see they put themselves up in the hills. If you ever look with the mansions. All right, if I look up mansions, you should see they're all in the hills. There you go. It's like this. All right. If I had a better camera and a camera, I could actually go outside. I could go, not from where I'm at, but a little bit down towards the Henderson area. You can look up the mountain, and there's just a bunch of mansions up there. You can see, look, again, on the hills. Their habitation is high. Okay, their habitation is high. All right, well, not all the time, right? Not all the time. Not all the time. Yeah, but for the most part, you put them in the higher areas. Okay, higher. If they're not higher, you put them in the higher elevation areas, right? In the hills. If they're not in the mountains, they're in the hills, right? And so on and so forth. But that's what you do. That's what you do. So you really fucking suck at not revealing yourself, but that's fine. It says, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Right? That's what you think. Who's going to bring me down? The Lord. Verse 4, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, another hint, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. Boom. Smoke 'em. 2nd Esdras 6 and 9 says, and this shows you that look, man, you're not going to be in power. You're not going to be in power. 2nd Esdras 6 and 9, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that falleth. And slowly, bit by bit, that power change, we're feeling it, man. The curses are starting to lift off of Jake just a bit. We're still under the curses, but, you know, Jake is starting to feel, you know, a little bit better, and Esau is starting to feel the curses a little bit. You know, all their businesses are failing, their lies are being revealed. They're looking dumb. Jake's looking smart, right? Jake's looking, you know, and Jake still looks dumb. Again, like I said, it's not 100% effective, but you know, you're seeing bits and pieces of it come off. You're starting to see more things revealed about Jake, about who they really were, about who really created the inventions. And Esau, meanwhile, they're just being known as the ones who stole the culture, stole the music, stole the inventions. All right, they don't have no dance. You know, I'm hearing from people, and I've actually heard from people that were in school, that white people are being made fun of in school. And if you're white, you're not cool, and you're not going to be hung out with. You got to at least be mixed. All right, all the white kids are starting to dress like black people. They're starting to get perms to have curly hair. All right, they're starting to do all these different types of things, and it's hilarious, man. You know, meanwhile, back in the day, you know, the black people used to have to, you know, dress, you know, more white, as they would say. They have to, you know, be more proper, have more proper hair, right? Thinner hair or straighter hair. You couldn't have anything that was more curly or kinky. But now, white people are out there trying to make their hair more curly and kinky, and trying to get fades, and trying to get waves, and all these different, you know, Jake hairstyles. It's hilarious. If that ain't a sign, then, you know, what is? All right. And then finally, we already got it. Well, we already got that one. So yeah, that was the one. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So, you know, Esau is slowly, bit by bit, all right, his wall is breaking away, and the Lord's the one doing that. All right. And it's ultimately lead up to the full reveal. And then, yeah, Yahushua is going to crack through those skies, and it's going to be over, man. It's going to be over. And at that point, Jacob's the beginning of it that falleth. Okay? You know, Esau is going to be taken out, end of the world. They're going to be brought into captivities. They're put in chains. All right, and Jacob's going to be, you know, set in power. And, you know, notably, the head Jake, all right, Yahushua, and, you know, to rule forever and ever. And Esau is never going to get up ahead like that. Matter of fact, after 1,000 years of captivity, they're going to be done away with, never to return as a nation again. The other nations are going to persist, all right, the other heathens. All right, after 1,000 years of their captivity, they're going to be under our rule, all right, not in slavery or captivity anymore, just like how they're basically how they are in living in this society now. But they're going to be living better than this in this society, okay? And a lot of, you know, well, they're going to be, you know, on the bottom. Yeah, they are going to be on the bottom, but we're not going to be, you know, being evil towards them. We're going to be moderating what they do, just how Esau did it in wickedness here, you know, having their own little areas with the Asians, Chinatowns, and stuff like that. They're going to have their own little areas, right? They're going to be moderated. They're going to live in nice houses, probably better houses than they lived in here, all right? And we're going to live in fucking palaces, man. So their houses are going to look like nothing. They're going to look like peasantry compared to us. But in all reality, they're going to be more than likely better than what they had here, because, you know, Esau has people living in squalor. Okay, really, the houses here, this isn't even no way to live. All right, the flat angles and stuff, it's bad for your feet. You know, everything's gonna be, it's hard to imagine, because we've never seen anything quite like it. But Esau's society is gonna be completely wiped out, and Jacob's society is gonna be, you know, built upon the destruction of their society. All right, we gotta have a clean slate. Gotta have a clean slate, and Yahweh Shai is gonna give it to us. Okay, so that's the lesson. All right. We're going to close out there. Can't necessarily remember what I had as the title. Something about, you know, Esau's mask really slipping, all right, and their pride is really masking their ability to see how dumb they really look. But I can't remember the exact wording I used. So I'll probably use that one because it sounded good when I had it put together. It might change, we'll see. But that's where we're going to close out. So Lord willing, the lesson was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Dash. I want to say shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing, shalom.